There are figures in ancient scripture who stand like shadows against the horizon of time, enigmatic, half-veiled, and far more mysterious than the world ever admits. But among them all, one man rises like a storm-lit mountain: Enoch, the human who did not die, the mortal who walked with God, and the prophet who, according to forbidden texts, was taken into the highest heavens and transformed into a luminous being. For centuries, his story lay scattered like shards of a shattered mirror, one piece in Genesis, another in the Apocrypha, entire books hidden in caves beneath desert sands, and whispers preserved only by mystics, rabbis, and heretical sects. Many believed his tale too strange, too cosmic, too dangerous for the masses. And so, the world was given only a single line: "And Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more, for God took him." But the truth, what actually happened to Enoch, is far greater, far more astonishing, and far more unsettling. According to the ancient Book of Enoch, he was not merely righteous. He was chosen. Chosen to step beyond the physical world. Chosen to stand before divine beings who shape the rise and fall of universes. Chosen to witness the machinery of creation itself, cosmic laws, angelic rebellions, and the architecture of fate. Enoch is the earliest story of a human ascending into the realm of the divine. He is the precursor to every mystical ascent. He is the blueprint for prophets, magi, and visionaries who would follow. But what did he learn? What did he see? And why was his knowledge hidden from the world for thousands of years? In this video, we will descend into the ancient world to recover the secrets that religions dismissed, scholars ignored, and empires feared. We will explore Enoch's transformation from a man into a celestial messenger, and uncover the cosmic conflict between fallen angels and divine order that he was sent to judge. We will journey through the books of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Jewish mysticism, early Christian writings, and the esoteric traditions that fought to preserve his legacy. And along the way, we will seek to understand why his story was erased from the Bible, and why the powers of the ancient world were terrified of what he revealed. Because Enoch is not just the story of a man. It is the story of a path that every seeker walks, knowingly or not. A path of awakening, transformation, and ascension. And if the texts are correct, Enoch's journey is not only ancient history, it is a map of spiritual blueprint for those who dare to seek higher worlds. Let us begin. Long before Enoch's name was inked onto parchment, before civilizations carved symbols into stone or raised temples under the sun, there existed a world whose memory is now little more than a trembling echo. A world described not only in the Bible, but in Sumerian myths, Babylonian tablets, and desert scrolls buried for millennia. A world where the boundary between the human and the divine was thin, almost breakable. Enoch lived in this forgotten age. It was the era before the flood, a time the ancients called the First World, when humanity was young, the lifespan of mortals stretched centuries, and the heavens were closer to the earth. The book of Genesis gives us little more than names and numbers. But the book of Enoch fills in the shadows. It tells us the world was not simply corrupt, it was invaded. According to this ancient text, a group of celestial beings known as the Watchers descended upon Mount Hermon. These were not gentle angels of modern imagination. They were powerful, radiant, and rebellious beings who gazed upon humanity with both fascination and desire. They taught forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, enchantment, astrology, sorcery, and the arts of war. They created giants, hybrid offspring called Nephilim, whose violence plunged the world into chaos. And humanity? Humanity forgot its place, forgot its limits, forgot the divine order that once governed the cosmos. This is when Enoch appears, not as a warrior, not as a king, but as a scribe of the heavens, a mediator between realms. Ancient scholars believed Enoch lived at a time when spiritual sight had not yet dimmed. The world was younger, clearer, and more receptive to celestial influence. He was already renowned for his righteousness, but more importantly, he possessed something even rarer: inner hearing, the ability to perceive the divine whisper beneath the noise of the world. In mystical Judaism, Enoch is remembered as the first prophet to ascend through the layers of heaven, not in death, but in life. The rabbis of the Merkavah tradition considered him the prototype of all mystics who would later seek the throne of God. Early Christians believed his writings revealed the hidden mechanics of divine judgment. Gnostic interpreters saw him as a messenger who understood the cosmic hierarchy of light beings and archons. But the historical world into which Enoch's story emerged was fractured. Different sects, Jewish mystics, early Christians, desert ascetics, each tried to claim or preserve his legacy. Some included his writings as sacred scripture. Others suppressed them. Rome declared his visions too dangerous, too mystical, too uncontrolled to be part of the canon. And so his works were exiled, copied by hand in caves, carried across deserts, and preserved by the Ethiopian Church alone for more than 1,000 years. It wasn't until the modern era, when scholars discovered manuscripts among the Dead Sea Scrolls, that the world finally realized something astonishing. Multiple ancient communities revered Enoch. His story was not fringe, it was central. But why did so many groups fight to preserve his memory? Because Enoch represents something that threatens religious institutions even today. A human who reaches the divine without intermediaries, without temples, without priestly approval. A human who becomes more than mortal one, who understands the secret architecture of the universe. His story suggests the divine is not far away, that the path to enlightenment has existed since the dawn of time, and that those who truly seek may still follow it. Enoch is history, but he is also a challenge. A reminder that the boundary between human and celestial is not as final as we've been taught. There is a single line in the Book of Genesis that has baffled scholars, mystics, and theologians for centuries. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Just 12 words. But behind them lies one of the most extraordinary spiritual journeys ever recorded. What does it mean to walk with God? What does it mean to vanish from the world without dying? To understand this, we must step inside the ancient imagination, a world where language was symbolic, layered, and alive. Because to the ancients, Enoch was not simply a man. He was a threshold figure, a wanderer between realms, a living bridge. The Book of Enoch begins quietly. Enoch is described as a man of great wisdom, humility, and devotion, a person who could feel the currents of heaven moving through the world. But one day, something changes. A presence calls to him, not in thunder or fire, but in vibration like a frequency only his soul could hear. The text describes how a vision fell upon him, overwhelming his senses. He is taken, not forcibly, but almost magnetically, drawn into the higher realms. His body remains on earth, but his consciousness, his essence, is lifted through layers of reality. This moment is important. It shows that Enoch's ascent did not begin as a physical event. It began as an inner awakening. In the Book of Enoch, heaven is not a cloud-filled paradise. It is structured, hierarchical, and radiant. Enoch speaks of being taken by shining beings into a space where the boundaries of time dissolve. He describes vast halls of crystal, pillars of fire, celestial rivers, and realms of impossible geometry. Each layer of heaven reveals a different aspect of divine order. The first heaven, the realm of natural forces, winds, stars, and seasonal rhythms. The second heaven, a place of imprisoned beings, bound for ancient transgressions. The third heaven, paradise and punishment intertwined, where souls await judgment. Higher heavens, realms of pure light, harmonics, and the presence of angelic intelligences. Enoch does not ascend as a passive observer. He is brought there to learn. During his ascent, Enoch is shown a book, a cosmic ledger containing the destinies of nations and the rhythms of creation. This is not a literal book, but a symbol familiar across ancient mystical traditions, the Akashic-like record, the blueprint of the universe. In this book, Enoch reads the future flood, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the consequences of spiritual corruption. He learns the true nature of time, not as a straight line, but as a cycle of revelation, fall, and renewal. What makes Enoch unique is not that he saw these things. It is that he understood them. He could interpret symbols, decode mysteries, and translate divine messages into the language of humans. One of the most dramatic episodes in Enoch's story occurs when the rebellious Watchers, those same angels who descended to earth and disrupted its order, approach Enoch with a plea. They ask him to write a petition on their behalf so that God might forgive them. Imagine the scene. These radiant, powerful beings, once guardians of cosmic order, now trembling before a human. They know Enoch has access to realms they can no longer reach. They know his purity grants him entry into the presence from which they have fallen. Enoch agrees to deliver their message. He ascends again into the higher realms. He presents their plea, but the answer is devastating. The Watchers will not be forgiven. They knew the cosmic laws. They broke them knowingly, and their actions ushered corruption into the world. Enoch returns to deliver the verdict. The Watchers despair. The Nephilim wreak havoc. The world spirals toward judgment. Here, Enoch is not merely a messenger. He is a mediator between cosmic forces, trusted by beings on both sides. With each ascent, Enoch changes. His visions intensify. His perception sharpens. His identity begins to shift. He no longer sees as a human sees. He sees patterns, interlocking, luminous, fractal. He understands the architecture behind existence. Toward the end of his journey, he is taken to the highest heaven, the throne of the Most High. It is described with imagery so overwhelming, it sounds like the language of someone trying to articulate a mystical experience beyond human comprehension. Blazing fire, vibrating brilliance, harmonic thunder, and colors without earthly parallel. In this presence, Enoch is transformed. He becomes Metatron, the lesser YHWH, the scribe of the divine realm, the one who stands closest to the source. This transformation is not simply an upgrade. It is the ultimate hermetic ascension, the mortal becoming immortal, the human becoming divine, the finite returning to the infinite. Enoch's ascent is more than a historical myth. It carries layers of meaning. Spiritually, it represents the potential for human consciousness to evolve. Philosophically, it reflects the belief that the universe is structured and intelligible. Esoterically, it reveals the path of inner alchemy, the refinement of the soul until it resonates with the divine. Enoch shows that enlightenment is not an escape from the world, but a transformation of awareness. And this is why the line "God took him" is so powerful. It implies that Enoch reached a point where there was no separation between his consciousness and the divine presence. He did not die. He shifted from one state of existence to another. His story is an invitation to remember that the path he walked is still open. Hidden, yes. Guarded, of course, but open to those with the courage and purity of intention to seek it. If the previous part revealed Enoch's ascent, this part opens the door into the deeper architecture of the universe he witnessed. Structures, beings, and laws that reshape the way we think about creation itself. Because the Book of Enoch isn't just a mystical story, it's a cosmic map, a revelation of a universe far more layered, populated, and intentional than most religious traditions dare to describe. Let us descend into those mysteries now. In Enoch's vision, The universe is not an empty expanse of stars. It is a temple. Every realm, every being, every motion follows a sacred order. Nothing drifts randomly. Everything vibrates according to a higher blueprint. The angels who guide him hint at a profound truth. Creation is made of consciousness structured into light. This was not symbolic language to Enoch. He saw it. Realms that shimmered with harmonic frequencies. Spaces built not of matter, but of meaning. Time behaving like a fluid, stretching and folding according to spiritual gravity. The cosmos was alive, breathing, singing, expanding. This is why Enoch's writings became so influential in mystical Judaism, early Christianity, and later Hermeticism. They confirm that the universe is intellectual and sacred, not mechanical and cold. One of the most misunderstood elements in Enoch's narrative is the story of the Watchers. Popular culture imagines them as demonic villains, but the text is subtler and more tragic. The Watchers were originally stewards of the natural world. Architects, guardians, teachers. Their task was not simply to observe, but to maintain harmony between heaven and earth. When they descended unto the daughters of men, it was not merely an act of lust. It was a rupture of cosmic order, a crossing of boundaries that destabilized creation. They brought forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, enchantments, cosmetics, astrology, not because knowledge itself was evil, but because humanity was not ready for it. The result was imbalance, the rise of the Nephilim, the corruption of the world's rhythm. In this light, the Watchers are less like demons and more like cosmic transgressors, beings who broke the universal equilibrium. Enoch's descriptions of the Nephilim are chilling and symbolic. They are portrayed as giants, hybrids, devourers of life, a metaphor for spiritual imbalance. These beings represent a world where the boundaries between realms blur, where the spiritual invades the material, where power loses restraint. And this is why the flood becomes necessary, not as a petty act of destruction, but as a cosmic reboot, a cleansing of frequencies, a return to balance. Enoch, who stood between worlds, was shown this not to terrify him, but to prepare him, to understand why humanity needed a new beginning. Modern culture imagines angels as winged humanoids, but to Enoch, they were forces, intelligences, energetic beings who shaped the mechanics of reality. There are angels of wind, fire, gravity, celestial cycles, memory, judgment, birth and death, the movement of stars, the opening of portals between realms. This reveals a universe that operates like a symphony. Every angel is a musician, every law is a note, and God is the conductor. And in that cosmic orchestra, Enoch is the first human ever allowed to walk among the musicians and read the sheet music. The climax of Enoch's ascent is the throne of the Most High. But this is not a literal throne. It is a dimensional locus, a center point where all trajectories meet. A radiant field of pure consciousness from which creation emanates. Enoch describes color beyond color, sound that contains all sounds, a presence that is neither figure nor form but essence, angels that appear as living fire, wheels within wheels, streams of luminous waters flowing from beneath the throne. This imagery echoes later prophetic visions, Isaiah, Ezekiel, John of Patmos, but Enoch's description is the earliest and most intricate. To stand before this presence is to encounter the source of existence. And here, Enoch is not annihilated. He is invited. The text says he is clothed in glory. His flesh becomes light. His mind expands to comprehend heavenly secrets. This is when he becomes Metatron. Enoch's transformation into Metatron is one of the most radical ideas in the entire mystical tradition. Metatron is the scribe of heaven, the voice of divine order, the one who sits beside the throne, the bridge between God and creation, the keeper of the Book of Life, the Lesser YHWH, a title of unimaginable significance. This metamorphosis shows that Enoch's journey was not simply a privilege, but a destiny. He was chosen to become the interface between human potential and divine reality. In this, he is the archetype of spiritual evolution. He represents what a human can become when consciousness fully awakens. The deeper purpose behind Enoch's revelations is not punishment or fear, but alignment. Through angelic teachings, cosmic visions, and encounters with the Watchers, he learns the fundamental principles of existence. 1. The universe is structured and alive. 2. Actions at any level ripple across all realms. 3. Knowledge must be matched with responsibility. 4. Humanity has a divine origin and a divine destiny. 5. Consciousness is the true ladder between heaven and earth. These themes are echoed later in Hermeticism, Kabbalah, Gnosticism, and Christian mysticism, proof of how deeply Enoch's legacy seeped into the world. Genesis gives no details about Enoch's final moment, but the Book of Enoch fills in the missing pieces. He does not die, he transitions. What happens is not a disappearance, but a completion. His journey through the heavens reaches a point where returning to normal human life is no longer possible. He has become a being of light, too radiant to collapse back into flesh. This is why the text says, "He was not," meaning he no longer fit within the physical dimension. For God took him, meaning his frequency matched the divine realm and the universe responded. Enoch is the prototype of ascension, a reminder that spiritual evolution is not metaphorical. It is the destiny encoded into the human soul. You've now followed Enoch through the heavens, through the courts of angels, through the hidden machinery of creation. But the real power of his story lies not in distant cosmic visions. It lies in what it means for you. Because the Book of Enoch is not just myth, it is a manual, a template for human transformation, a blueprint for those who, like Enoch, wish to walk with God in a world thick with distraction and spiritual sleep. Let us shift now from the cosmic to the practical, from what Enoch saw to what Enoch embodied. 1. Cultivating Enoch's core attitude, consistent alignment. The defining feature of Enoch's life was not his visions, but his consistency. Genesis doesn't say he prayed occasionally or lived righteously on good days. It says Enoch walked with God. Walked, not visited, not glanced at. Walked. This implies a continuous state of alignment, an inner posture oriented toward the divine. What does this look like today? Attentiveness to your thoughts, honoring your conscience instead of suppressing it, choosing clarity over confusion, returning to stillness when lost, remembering the higher purpose behind every action. Walking with God is not a feeling, it is a direction. And direction can be chosen every day, regardless of circumstances. 2. Clearing the inner static, the watchers within. In Enoch's world, the watchers were literal angels. In our world, their influence survives as symbols, inner forces that teach us prematurely, distract us, or lead us into imbalance. The forbidden teachings of the Watchers can be understood as over-intellectualization without wisdom, excessive technology without ethics, pleasure without restraint, ambition without humility, knowledge without preparation. We all carry these Watchers within the impulses that corrupt balance. To walk the path of Enoch, one must learn to observe these forces and distinguish between true inner guidance and the noise of unruly tendencies. A simple practice. Whenever faced with a decision, ask, does this elevate me or scatter me? This single question will expose the inner watchers more effectively than any doctrine. 3. Practicing heavenly vision, the art of inner seeing. Enoch's greatest gift was not physical ascent. It was inner perception, the ability to see beyond appearances. All mystics share this skill, and it can be developed. Try this practice. Sit in stillness for a few minutes. Let your breath fall naturally. Bring into your awareness an issue or a question. Then ask silently, "Show me the truth beneath the surface." Don't force images. Don't analyze. Just wait and observe what arises. Feelings, symbols, impressions. This is how ancient mystics trained themselves to hear the whispers beneath the noise. Over time, your intuition sharpens, and you develop the spiritual sight that guided Enoch's ascent. 4. Integrating the cosmic ladder, the seven realms meditation. Enoch describes multiple heavens, levels of consciousness. While we cannot physically ascend as he did, we can mimic the structure internally through contemplative ascent. Here is a simplified version. Stage 1. Body awareness, grounding in the present moment. Stage 2. Emotional awareness, observing without judgment. Stage 3. Mental clarity, releasing wandering thoughts. Stage 4. Heart expansion, cultivating compassion. Stage 5. Insight, receiving intuitive wisdom. Stage 6. Stillness, merging with pure awareness. Stage 7. Light, resting in the presence of the divine. Moving through these heavens elevates consciousness, clears internal pathways, and aligns you with higher frequencies, just as Enoch was prepared for his ascent. Practice this regularly, and you begin to perceive life not as chaos, but as structured, intentional, and sacred. 5. Emulating Enoch's role as scribe, writing your inner book. Enoch is remembered as the scribe of heaven, the recorder of truth. This archetype is deeply practical. To imitate Enoch, try journaling as a spiritual discipline. Write down insights, dreams, inner conflicts, recurring patterns, synchronicities, quiet realizations. This creates an external record of your inner world map, just as Enoch wrote cosmic maps. Over time, your journal becomes a mirror of your ascent, revealing how your consciousness evolves. You become the scribe of your own spiritual journey. 6. Recognizing your divine origin, a shift in identity. The essence of Enoch's message is this: humans are not merely dust. They are potential light. Most people live as if they are small, powerless, accidental. Enoch's story challenges this. Try affirming this truth daily. I am a being of spirit, walking in matter. This reframes identity. It shifts you from survival mode to spiritual intentionality. You begin to treat your decisions, relationships, and actions as part of a cosmic story, not a random shuffling of events. And when you adopt this identity, you naturally live with more clarity, resilience, and purpose. 7. Living the path of ascension, one inner step at a time. You may never physically ascend into heaven like Enoch, but you can ascend in consciousness, in character, in awareness, in purpose. The Enochian path consists of raising your vibration, choosing integrity when it's difficult, seeking wisdom instead of comfort, listening inward instead of outward, clearing what drags you down, illuminating what awakens you. Each step is small, but together they form a staircase, a living ladder like the one Jacob later saw, a symbol that echoes Enoch's own journey. To follow Enoch is to evolve. To walk with God is to walk toward your highest self. Enoch's story is not like the stories of other ancient figures. He does not conquer kingdoms. He does not perform miracles. He does not build monuments or carve commandments into stone. Instead, he does something far more radical, something that unsettles priests and fascinates mystics. He transforms, not after death, but in life. Not through power, but through alignment. Not by escaping the world, but by walking faithfully within it. This is the truth shimmering beneath every page of the Book of Enoch. A human being reached the divine. A mortal ascended without dying. A man became a being of light. And if Enoch's story survived thousands of years of suppression, exile, and forgetfulness, it is because it carries a message that religious institutions have always considered dangerous. You are not as small as you've been told. The distance between you and the divine is not fixed. You can walk with God. This is what Enoch represents, the possibility of conscious evolution. Enoch's journey is symbolic, yes, but it is also practical. It shows what happens when a person chooses clarity over distraction, integrity over impulse, awareness over numbness, purpose over aimlessness, connection over isolation. When you align your inner life with higher truth, the universe responds, not with lightning bolts or visions of flaming angels, but with clarity, synchronicity, intuition, and presence. You begin to hear the subtle things. You see patterns others overlook. You sense meaning where others see chaos. You grow lighter not in body, but in being. This is the path Enoch walked. And this is the path still open to you. Genesis records only 8 haunting words. And he was not, for God took him. To the modern mind, this sounds like myth. To the mystical mind, it is a roadmap. Enoch did not vanish as punishment or reward. He vanished because his consciousness no longer matched the density of the physical world. He had become a being of alignment, and the universe lifted him to where beings of alignment dwell. This is why Enoch becomes Metatron, the heavenly scribe, the bridge between the divine and the created. His transformation is a reminder. When you raise your inner frequency, reality itself shifts beneath your feet. You may never stand before fiery wheels of angelic intelligence. You may never be clothed in celestial glory, but you can awaken the same qualities within you. Attention, integrity, devotion, clarity, courage, inner listening, spiritual awareness. Enoch is not a relic of the past. He is a mirror, a reflection of who you could be if you listened more deeply, walked more consciously, and lived with a heart aligned to the infinite. In a world drowning in noise, cynicism, and distraction, the story of Enoch is an invitation. Rise, remember who you are. Walk with the divine, step by step, breath by breath, and watch your life transform. If you found meaning in this journey, if Enoch's story stirred something ancient, something quiet, something luminous within you, consider joining this growing circle of seekers. Share your insights or questions in the comments. There is wisdom in dialogue. There is illumination in community. And if you want more explorations of ancient mysteries, hidden texts, and the secret architecture of existence, you know what to do. Subscribe, Seeker of Truth. Your path is just beginning.